Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Medicine Podcast. I'm Maddie Portland. I'm here with my co-host, Hayley Karpik. Hayley,
live from my childhood bedroom.
Yeah, so I was just
home
going
for the
to
holidays
ask
version.
if you were back in West Lafayette.
I am. I'm back in Indiana. You can see if you look close enough, you can see my high school soccer lore in the back.
Yeah, is that your jersey back there?
It is. Lucky number 17. Yeah, my jersey. Yeah, so it's classic back. I've got that behind me, and I have a lava lamp that was purchased like in 2004 in front of me. Like, it is screaming back at home with my parents, and it's lovely.
You're right back in it.
Yeah, back on my bullshit.
Times.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we agreed that for the intro question this week, we were going to let the fans in on our weekend, because we both had very sporty weekends.
Sporty weekends. We're letting them behind the curtain, letting them see our real lives.
And it's on brand because you did a sports thing and I watched a sports thing.
Yeah, that's true. I also spectated too. I did some actual, and then I did some spectating. Either way, they're both quality.
You're not helping this. Because that just means you got through it quick enough to watch someone.
Yeah.
But let's let everyone in. What'd you do this weekend?
Yeah, we'll start with me because I think yours is more exciting. So this weekend I ran the Philly half marathon. So, which is exciting. I'm a hobby jogger, as I like to call myself. Catch me on Strava, all you runners out there. Solid time this year. I didn't get a full training block in because I was sick in October. So I was like pleased with my efforts. It's a beautiful day. I basically stalked 2 people for 6 miles. I liked their pace. So I just latched on and went with them for 6 miles. And then I left them in the dust and had a good last 7 or so miles. So that was my athletic endeavor. And then I also watched, the next day was the Philly full marathon. So I had a few friends running the full. Always exciting. Again, the half is just so chill compared to the full. I couldn't imagine running a full marathon, but I had one friend go under 3 hours for the first time, which was super hype. Shout out to Max. And I had another friend who wasn't a runner at all. He texted me, he's like, "Oh, I'm running the marathon." I literally laughed out loud. I was like, "No, you're not." The furthest he had run before this was 2 miles. And then he trained all summer, all fall, and then ran his first marathon, ran a little over 4 hours. So really impressive. I was literally had never run. And the most he'd run was 2 miles back in high school. So 10 years ago, and whipped out a marathon.
That gives me hope.
Yeah. If he can do it.
That gives me so much hope.
Yeah. And he ran solid. Again, he was 9-minute miles, ran a little over 4 hours. I caught him at mile 24, deep in the pain cave. And the look on his face was pure distraught. And it made me think twice.
I made a mistake.
Yeah. Why did I ever sign up for this? But then caught him at the end, and the smile was back. So eventful weekend, beautiful weekend in Philly for both the half and the full marathon. So no complaints, had some good running. And then I, went out after and butt dialed you for 11 consecutive minutes.
You did. And let's just let the fans in on something a little bit more. So you kept giving these little, dropping these hints, you were about to pick up and talk to me. So I stayed on like a creep for 11 minutes. And then finally, the people I were with were like, "I don't think she's going to answer, dude." I was like, "You're right. I just look foolish."
And to caveat, I will say I ran 13 miles and then went almost straight to drinking, which, they hit different after
I'm sure that's what you're supposed to do. That's what it says on the bottles, right?
Yeah.
Run 13 miles, and then
enjoy 3 sips and you'll be feeling amazing. So I butt dialed you for 11 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. During that time, you may have heard me. I was out with some people and I was taking their phones and looking up our podcast on Spotify and saving it. I was here you guys go. So I was promoting the pod. So
nice.
You're welcome. And I'm glad we had an 11-minute conversation about absolutely nothing, that you were just listened into my
I think you guys were figuring out where you were going next. It sounded like it was well planned out, well thought out. And I did also hear, and you shouted it out on the Instagram, that like weird goo stuff you eat.
What? I talked about you heard me say that. Yeah, it was yeah, a goo. It's like,
The
you know, the
birthday
stuff.
flavored goo.
Yeah, birthday cake. It's like the stuff that runners use. It's like it's got some kind of nasty consistency to it, and they're not the most tasty,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'll stand by the birthday cake goo. It's delicious.
It's like
So
astronaut food, right?
kind of, yeah. It's like, you know, high caloric, not a lot of volume to it. And yeah, I ate the birthday cake goo at mile 7.5 and never felt better. So,
Okay.
and I
Well,
stand by that. That's the best goo flavor. I'll die on that hill.
that is actually a great transition because I discovered a watermelon vodka Red Bull at my race, and that also doesn't taste very good. But I did
No,
drink 3 of them.
I couldn't be that bad. Red Bull gives you wings.
It did. It did give me wings.
Yeah.
And they were needed, especially for the first 2 days of the event. So, in case anyone's been living under a rock, I got the chance to go to the Formula One.
Living under a rock, or we'll caveat by saying not a fan of F1.
Sure, but I mean, I don't. I feel like it's been in the news. Like if like everyone in Vegas like is boycotting F1. They are not a fan of it. They do not want it to come back. It's caused quite a bit of chaos in Las Vegas. Yeah, it was this huge thing. Then the whole like manhole incident got like happened. Like I don't. We're not an F1 podcast, so I don't want to go too deep into it.
Maybe I am living under a rock. I feel like I didn't hear about any of that. I knew F1 was in Vegas, and that's the extent of my knowledge.
No. So there was this. So they spent all this money. They like all these small businesses, like all these parking lots were closed for these small businesses. Prices for everything were hiked up, like through the roof. Like an 11-minute Uber was like $75. Not gonna lie, yeah. So like it was crazy. Luckily, we discovered, thanks to the locals we were with, we discovered the monorail and cutting through different casinos. So
yeah. There is an efficient way to travel through Vegas, and that would be it.
I will say, so it's interesting that you did a half marathon because the first day of the Grand Prix, I walked 9 miles.
Oh,
and
there you go.
Where we were staying was supposedly only 3 miles from where our like zone was for our tickets. So you could kind of see the frustration building as I'm with, you know, this group of people. I'm in booties, by the way, too. So I'm impressed with myself. I was looking profesh.
Yeah.
And
is that normal attire for an F1 race, or people dress to the nines?
Actually, so I will say, yeah, people do dress up for the race. If you're in like general admission or grandstands, it's usually like, I'd say like more like regular ballpark like attire. So like a lot of like jeans, Converse, Nikes, stuff like that. But people do also dress up. And if you sit in like the nice seats or you're in like a club viewing, then you're super dressed up.
Gotcha.
So
prom dresses?
Yeah. No.
Whenever people say dressed up, that's always like my joke. I'm like, oh, were you in your prom dress?
Yeah. No, yeah. It's an interesting, it's an eclectic crowd.
Yeah, I did.
I did walk a lot. We saw the race. It was super cool. We had great seats. A lot of people gambling. Max Verstappen won again. So he's won like the majority of the races this year. There's like a meme on social media that's like, you tune in sometimes at 6 a.m. every weekend to watch the same person go around a track 50 or 70 times and win. And you're like, yeah, that's what we do.
That's how it's been going.
But no, my takeaways from Vegas are, it's a super interesting place. It's where like the most different people from the most like different walks of life come together.
Yeah.
And gamble and and drink and watch sporting events and such. So
Yeah.
that was kind of odd. It's very fun as like a female when you like run into a guy and you're like, I know something about sports, and they're like impressed.
Yeah. It's a good
Which
place
you'll
to
get.
flex your sports knowledge.
It is. It is. So I think that's a good transition for the topic of today,
Yeah.
because
It
you would
really
have
is so
thought
timely.
I was doing like chemical engineering when like the like people we were out to dinner with were like, oh yeah, like tomorrow's Sunday, like I'm gonna recover and just like bet on football games all day. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what's
Who you
the
betting on?
spread for the Giants game? And they're like, you know what a spread is? And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
And
that's
by
kind
the
of
end of this podcast, you two listeners will know what a spread is.
what the spread is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
well,
Well,
it
Haley,
was so
do you want
timely
to
that like you were in
take
Vegas
us
and
through
now
it? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I will say it's like I said, it's so timely that you were in Vegas and now the pod we're going through today is
Oh,
just
wait.
what?
Before we start, I have
For
to say
sure.
I have to get in one other story here.
Go for
You
it.
know what? And I'll shout out my mom. I talked to my brother on the phone right before we started recording this, and you know what? She's a little right. I was a bit foolish. On my flight home, I had a 7 p.m. flight home that was
Okay.
direct, that was supposed to go from Las Vegas to Chicago. But I got to the airport in the morning. Well, not really the morning, like right at the afternoon, beginning of the afternoon. And I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to sit here like all day. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So then I get on the phone and I'm like, all right, I'm on standby. So I fly standby and I go from Las Vegas to New Jersey and then New Jersey to Chicago. So a couple things wrong there. One, I
You
flew
went to New
over
Jersey.
Chicago to get to Chicago, which was silly.
This is only because you wanted to leave sooner?
Yeah. Yeah, like I got impatient and just went for it, and it was a bad idea. I will say, looking back, I also screwed up that I did not like do enough. Like I do travel, but not like a ton. So I didn't realize the tickets like did all the math for me, basically. So I thought by doing this standby, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get home 2 hours early. I beat the system. Let's go. I'm doing it. Turns out I saved 45 minutes on my trip.
Did you save any money?
Oh yeah, it didn't cost any money for me to make this foolish mistake, but it was a bit silly. You could when I was telling people, like when I was on the plane and we were like chatting about the race and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, where are you going?" And I'm like, "Oh, Chicago."
Chicago via New Jersey, via Newark Airport.
Why are you on this plane? And I was just like, it'll make sense when I like talk about it. And that's when I quickly realized that
Has it made sense to you yet?
I did say 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
But you had to go to Newark Airport, which is hell in itself. So.
Yeah, we had to take a bus to get from like Terminal C to Terminal A. It was. I won't do it again. Like I'm literally admitting here that I messed up.
Yeah. That's very on brand of you to do. Be like, oh, I'm going to get on this earlier flight and fly 2 hours out of my way and then 2 hours back.
And save 45 minutes.
And save 45 big whole minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of just like getting dinner at the Las Vegas airport.
Watching a movie.
Right. Yeah, no, there were solutions. There were other solutions.
You could have gone and gambled at the Las Vegas airport while you were waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, there were so many other solutions.
Yeah. You were just an innovative thinker. You wanted to say, you said this, I'll do anything for 45 minutes.
Solutions-based.
You are a solutions-based. Yeah, we won't talk about how you get there, but you are a solutions-based problem solver. That's hilarious. That's the most you thing I've heard in a minute. So when you texted me and you were like, "Hey, I can't record tonight. I'm at the Newark airport." I was like, "What?" I was like worried. I was like, "Did you get on the wrong flight? Did your flight get diverted?" No, you did that on purpose. Well, I'm glad you made it back to Chicago in one piece.
Thank you.
And yeah, I guess on that note, thanks. That's a good story though. That will help the listener know if you need to know anything about Maddie Portland. That is that wraps it up pretty concise. It's a pretty concise story to get a good personality glimpse. So oh gosh. Well, I guess we can, go into the topic. Again, very timely since you were in Vegas. We're talking about gambling. I'll give a quick shout out to the only Liz Eith, who texted me and was like, "You guys should do gambling for girls." And I was like, okay, we'll do a little gambling for dummies. I think this is a great topic because sports gambling is like ubiquitous now. It's everywhere. Everybody's doing it. You can do it in like almost every state. You can do it on your phone. You can do it at a game, in the middle of the game. You can bet on the game you're sitting and watching. And there's a lot of terms, and I think a lot of people get the terms and get what it means. But for those of you who don't, who honestly, before this episode, a lot of these terms I was like a little confused on, but now we're just here to enlighten you. This is gambling 101. And this is us not saying you should gamble. It's just teaching you about the terms of gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say best advice, don't. But if you're going to, here's some, some fun facts.
Some fun facts, and then like get you the lingo so that when you're hanging out with the guys or gals or whoever is gambling, you're going to be like, "Oh, okay, I get what they're saying when they say they're going to bet they're going to place a 5-leg parlay, something like that." So we're here to educate the masses, but I'll do just a quick run through history of gambling. As you could guess, people have been betting on shit for ages. They've been asking the question of, or they've been saying, let's make this interesting since probably the dawn of time. And then like kind of leading into Vegas, like Vegas was really the first place to, start gambling. It used to be like the only place you could gamble was in Vegas. And you saw that firsthand. They've got card games, they've got slots, they've got sports gambling, the whole 9 yards. And then slowly but surely states have legalized gambling, so you can actually like gamble in real time from your phone. You used to have to like go to a casino and do it, but now it's legal. It's like, legal in a bunch of states. I'll run through them: North Carolina, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Maine, Michigan, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, Wyoming. And then you can bet in person. Ooh. Yeah, I'm like an auction reader with that, but a really slow auction reader. And then you can bet in person in Delaware, Mississippi, Montana, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Dakota, Washington, and Wisconsin.
So for all those people out there listening to us in Montana, get on your horse and get over to that casino.
And get to that casino and gamble in person. Can't do it online. But then like there's apps you can do it, like the most common ones. And like, let me know if I forget, like there's like DraftKings and FanDuel, BetMGM.
Yep.
Am I missing
Caesars is a big one. And then I'd say probably Barstool. Their sports books pretty big too. Yeah. But I think you covered the, like, I feel like the main ones that have all the like commercials.
Exactly. Like the ads that you see for DraftKings. I feel like I see DraftKings and FanDuel all
the time.
Or like, during the Super Bowl, you'll see like first bet free on FanDuel or whatever. So yeah, like in these states where it's legal, you can just download the app and it knows where you are. And if it's legal in that state, you can place bets on, whatever you want. And specifically here, we're talking about sports, but like gambling, you can gamble on anything. And then back in the day, you think about like now you can get on your phone and gamble so easily. But like back in the day, you used to have to like call a bookie. Like, have you know what a bookie is? Like you just like would call somebody who would place these bets for you. And nowadays you just get on your phone. It's pretty crazy.
Yep. Or sometimes people have like a friend kind of act as the bookie and keep track of everything for you, which is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Hey, listeners, let us know. Email us at thesportsmedicinepodcast@gmail.com. What are the advantages of using a bookie? Are there
Yeah.
any?
Or
Let
if
me
you're
know.
a bookie out there, let us
Yeah,
know who's your
let us know.
clientele. Yeah, like what advantage do you play? Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of like the quick history of gambling. And again, like I feel like nowadays you just see it everywhere. And if you're like a younger listener, you probably don't even remember prior to sport, like gambling being illegal in all these states where you could just like whip out your phone and gamble on like basically any game, et cetera, under the sun. So yeah.
What has been the like weirdest or like most unique thing you've ever gambled on?
I've never sports gambled.
Have you gambled on anything?
No.
Wow.
I mean, I've like
okay, so
put,
that's
I feel like
unique.
I feel like you and I have like probably put, I feel like you and I have bet like, oh, I'll bet you $10 about something or another, but I've never placed a bet.
Oh yeah, okay. So because we've done like if Purdue's playing basketball, we've done
Yeah.
that.
Or like,
We've run
yeah.
into those.
Like,
Or I
honestly, I
think I
feel like,
might have bet that I could have gotten like a B
well,
on a dosage forms final.
I also think
And
we
then I
bet one
think I got
time
a B
on,
minus.
remember I think one time we were in the same sorority. That's another thing people can know about us. We were in the same sorority. I bet you on the length of our voting, the over under on our voting, how long it would take us, because that was always like the longest chapter ever. It'd be like 5, and not really, it'd be like 3 hours long. We bet on that, but that was like, I think I bet you like a Den Pop, like
Yeah, no, you definitely did. You definitely
like a 25-cent soda.
I want to say that I think I won.
I think you did win.
No, yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, I think you did.
But that was fun. So we'll let the listeners know what an over under is.
Yeah. So yeah, I can
Weirdest.
run through the terms, but what's the weirdest thing? I mean, I've had friends who've gambled on like darts, professional darts. Like that's like the weirdest one I can think of.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we've done. I don't think
I've heard some
coming from
weird
like
prop bets.
yeah, coming from like an Irish Catholic family that will, essentially bet on anything that moves. Like
Yeah.
nothing's really considered odd, but I haven't gone outside of like baseball, football, basketball.
Yeah.
So, and really, like I said, my preferred way to spend money is at restaurants on fancy meals, not not on sports betting. But like for like Super Bowls, for holidays, stuff like that, we'll bet. So
yeah, like do a game of squares, or
yeah. Squares, or like you said, I think prop bets are really funny.
Prop bets
so
are
I'll be
fun.
like, oh well, like Zach Levine hit a triple double. Probably not, but I'll bet on it. Like that's kind of fun for the holidays.
Yeah, and I think you hear a lot of like funny or like unique prop bets. I feel like those are the ones that are
like
really
first
like
Super Bowl commercial. Will it be alcohol related?
Yeah, what color is the Gatorade going to be? And we'll run through that.
How long is the national anthem going to last for the Super Bowl? Like over under for 3 minutes or whatever. Yeah, those I like. Those I'll get into.
Those can be fun. So yeah, I'll dive into the kind of the terminology around gambling, and yeah, just kind of you're sitting at a bar. The guys are, what would we say? Just guys being dudes. You're talking with the guys, and they're talking about who they're betting on tonight. This is going to make you prepared to at least understand the conversation and not just completely zone out and think about what you're going to make for dinner tomorrow. This is going to allow you to be engaged in the conversation. So we'll start with like the simplest term, like the simplest, like most straightforward term, which is betting on the money line. So the money line, that's just straightforward, no frills, simply choosing which team is going to win. Simple win-lose scenario. So you could place a bet on lame. You're going to make all of our listeners be horrible gamblers. It's a pretty like low risk. Like again, you're just betting on the winner or the loser. It's kind of boring, but it's very straightforward. The money line. Like Purdue is playing Tennessee in basketball right now. You could bet who's going to win, just straight up. And then we move on to, we're going to kind of like go in hierarchy of, I guess, like things I thought were confusing when I was looking up, terms getting more and more confusing.
You could also look at it as like a linear graph of like excitement.
I would agree. This is like,
we're traveling upward,
or like potential risk. A money line
potential to lose money is going to
increase, because like the money line, like I mean, you could bet on a team with really low odds to win and win a lot, but it's going to be like a low risk, low reward kind of scenario.
Right.
So
right.
next, moving on to the over and under. You know, they'll talk about the over under. It's also known as the totals, is another term that people will use. This actually doesn't hinge on whether a team wins or loses. You focus on the total number of points scored by both teams, which is great. It can be great for viewing. The over under, if you're like betting on the over under, is great for viewing because you're like not cheering, you're cheering for like the teams to score a lot of points if you're betting like, or to not score a lot of points. So you're really like not like investing too much in one team. I guess you could, but it can be a little bit more of like a more palatable way to gamble.
So
yeah.
people, when your significant other takes you on a date to a sports game that either you don't care about or they don't care about, a lot of times people that are into sports gambling will place a bet on an over or an under, which will
To make it
automatically make the game more exciting, more easily able to engage. So if you're taking your date to one of those games, maybe you ask them, "Hey, are you placing a bet? Are you going with the over or the under?" And they'll be like, "Wow, I knew I picked the right one when I saw you
I'm in
standing
love.
there across the bar." Like, you know, like
this girl can talk gambling and she knows how to make a game interesting. She's a keeper. So yeah, again, you're just over under looking at those total points. You can, you know, if you're thinking strategy, you could like leverage teams' defense or offensive capabilities. If you know a team's, if you think a team's going to score a bunch of points, or that there's going to be no defense in the game and that both teams are going to score a bunch of points, maybe you pick the over or something like that. But just to like put it an example, like an over under on an NBA game could be something like 210.5 points. So that's the 0.5 is just the hook. It just prevents ties. So it prevents you from like landing on a specific number. So if the over under was 210 for an NBA game and you bet the over, you want the total points in the game, team A plus team B, to equal greater than 210 points. You'd be thrilled. You make money. Again, your date's all impressed because you know.
you called it.
You called it. Or and if you, in the under, to me, I'm like, do people bet the under? It sounds kind of lame. I mean, I guess if you know a lot about a team and you're like, oh, I know they're not going to score a lot of points here. This is a tough defensive matchup. I'm going to bet the under. I would be betting the over because I just want teams to score, you know, like, and this is why I don't.
Yeah. I would say, you know, listeners, again, email us, flame us, let us know that we're wrong.
Comment below.
But I feel like if you bet the under, you're trying to prove that you know about sports.
Yeah, like you're trying to flex.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, I watch so much sports that I even know about defense. Like I don't just care about like dunks and touchdowns and birdies and like cool stuff like that. Yeah. Like I pay attention to boring stuff too. And it's like, well, that's cool, but I don't. So
yeah. So maybe you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And then the date goes, oh my God, they bet the under.
Swipe left.
Swipe left. They're out. That's the last date right then and there.
But yeah, let us know why we're wrong.
Yeah,
let me know.
Because I guess that's like my biggest caveat on this whole thing. I don't gamble, so I genuinely don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just, you know, informing the masses on the terminology and throwing in my commentary as I go. So exactly. Yeah, over under total combined points, you're betting off of that. The next one, we alluded to this earlier, the point spread. So also people call it the spread, you know, it's picking a winner and betting on the margin of victory. So over under, again, you're just hoping both teams have fun. The money line, you're picking a winner. The point spread, you have to
both teams have fun. That's what we're labeling this episode.
I hope everybody just has a good time.
Equals we hope both teams have
fun. Everybody just needs to have a real good time.
Sorry, we can cut out my like coughing laughter, but that
I like
was
the
awesome.
laugh. It stays in.
That's awesome. All right, sorry.
Yeah, so the point spread.
We'll get back to it.
Yeah, you're picking a winner and you're betting on the margin of victory. So you're like, you kind of have to like know a little bit more about the team. Are they talented? Are they going to win? And are they going to win by the amount of victory that Vegas or the house thinks that they're going to win by? The point spread has like a big, has a greater chance for payout in like the gambling game. These odds are like, you'll find, again, because it's you're betting on the winner and on the margin, or the loser and the margin. So you can get a better, bigger payout with these. And a term you also may have heard a lot is covering the spread. They're saying, oh, are they going to cover the spread? So that covering the spread is covering the spread is they win by, the team you pick to win wins by more than the allotted amount to cover. So if the spread is a negative 3.5 on the game, like tonight, Purdue playing Tennessee, Purdue is a 3.5 point favorite, which means, and favorite gives you that the negative sign. So if you're negative 3.5 point favorite, that means, don't be confused by the negative. That means you're the favorite. It's not a bad thing. So if you're a negative 3.5 favorite, the team has to win by more than 3.5, also known as 4 points, to cover the spread. So if Purdue wins tonight, as we're talking about this game may already be over. I don't even know. If for Purdue to cover the spread, they would have to win the game by 4 points. And they would cover, and your bet would cover. So, and then on the opposite, like if you're betting on the underdog's going to have the positive, the plus in front of them. So they'd be a 3.5 point underdog. It would show up as plus 3.5. So you may see that. I think that's kind of a confusing thing. And we'll hear all the time people toss around like, are they going to cover the spread? That just means, are they going to win and win by the amount that, and the spread is also just like, again, these are not numbers that some, like Vegas, the house, quote unquote, determines these numbers. And the line of the game is determined by people in Vegas, I think, or wherever.
Algorithms for like the different casinos and stuff.
Yeah, and the spread changes up until like it can change. Like say
up till the game starts.
Yeah, like say the spread is 7.5, and a major player gets injured in practice during the week. The spread may change and things like that. But yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the negative. The negative means you're the favorite, and covering the spread means you're winning, and you're winning by the allotted amount, or losing by the allotted amount.
Yeah, exactly. So if you bet the underdog and they lose, but they lose by less than what they were favorited to lose by, they also win. So
yeah,
different options.
Yes, there's a lot of options, and you can pick them to win and not cover, or win and cover. Like there's that one gets. I think that's one where it gets like tricky in your mind. In my mind, personally.
Yeah. So I'm looking up the spreads for the NFL for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Who's playing on Thanksgiving in the NFL? That's a good question.
We got Green Bay Packers versus Detroit Lions, because I believe the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Always. Yeah. So Detroit Lions are a 7.5 point favorite over the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
Would
you take that bet?
I like. Yes,
I would
probably will. Yep. And then Dallas Cowboys versus Washington Commanders. Dallas is an 11 point favorite.
Are they playing at home?
But if you're doing FanDuel, it's only negative 10.5. Actually, they're only 10.5 point favorite.
It kind of depends on, you gotta see where you're looking. Shop around.
Yeah. And then Seahawks and 49ers. Right now, 49ers are a 6.5 point favorite. So we'll see. But my brothers and my entire family will likely be.
They're Seahawks fans, right?
Be betting on that. Yeah, Will's Seahawks fan. Sean is actually a Vikings fan. So
that's a good team. That's a fun team to be cheering for right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
That looked like their season was over, and now it looks like their season just started. Like,
exactly. And they've got newfound hope. Yeah, they're a fun team. So yeah, if you're
hope that kills you, though. I kind of feel like the Vikings are to Sean what like Purdue is for us.
Yeah, what does George Costanza say about hope? I hate hope. Hope is killing me. That is how I feel about. Yeah, I don't want hope. Hope is killing me. That is. If I like currently my Instagram picture is Garfield. If I were to change it, it would be George Costanza saying, "I hate hope. Hope is killing me," because that is in strictly a sports mindset. Because I think hope is the enemy in sports. That's why I'm like not getting into Purdue basketball this year. I can't let myself hope. Can't let myself hope. But yeah, and I'll say that you'll check it in a month and I'll be addicted to this team. So, you know.
I know they're number 2 right now. They're like teasing you.
Yeah, let's see if my parents.
Did they pull out the win against Tennessee?
I'm looking it up right now. Purdue basketball.
Live reaction, people.
Final, they did win 71. I've been hearing my brother and my dad and my cousin down there like live reacting to the game. Yeah, they won 71-67. They'll play in the final of the Maui/Honolulu, taking place in Honolulu, which is a stacked tournament, by the way. Crazy good basketball, especially if you want to watch tomorrow. Purdue's going to play. They'll play either
sit Kansas. On a beach when you're not playing. That sounds awesome.
I know. I'd twist my arm. I'd go to Hawaii. But yeah, tomorrow Purdue will play the winner of Kansas and Marquette. 1 versus 4.
Ooh, is it? Yeah, Marquette are they number 4 or number 1 right now? 4. I know they're super
Kansas
high.
Is 1.
They're 4.
Kansas is 1.
Kansas
so
is
now
1.
Let's see what the line is. Line Kansas.
That's gonna be close.
Marquette. I bet Kansas is probably gonna be a favorite.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade was down there because he's a Marquette guy in Maui for this, or in Honolulu for this tournament. So let's see. I'm looking on Sportsbook. Let's see. Currently, Kansas is a 4.5 point favorite. The over under,
that's close.
The over under is 157.5. So again, over under total points. The spread
pretty good for a college game, like beginning-ish of the season. Yeah, that's
a decent amount of points. I would bet the under on that. Although I don't really know about any of these teams. This is why I don't gamble. I'm out here like, yeah, you should do that.
See, I gotta be honest. I like I'll log into the apps all the time and look at like the point, like the spreads.
Yeah.
To see like the different things, but I just don't bet on them.
That's smart.
Let me know if that's illegal.
I think you can.
I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting to look at it. Yeah, like I don't know.
Look, but don't touch. But yeah, so we'll move on to the last few kind of like random bet terms, and then I've got some like random things to ask / a mini soapbox to get on. So next bet, thing we'll talk about is a prop bet. So a prop bet is often but not always like based around an individual player. We talked about some like not player examples earlier, like what color is the Gatorade going to be at the Super Bowl on the winning coach, or like random things like that. Like a prop bet another example would be like how, you're betting on a quarterback to have X number of passing yards, or you're betting on so-and-so to score 2 touchdowns during a game. So you're betting on like an individual player event kind of thing. Like in my show notes, I say dumb shit like what color the Gatorade will be poured on the winning coach. So I always think prop bets are kind of like random, kind of dumb things that like they throw together. And then next we'll talk about the parlay, which a term you've probably heard of. I feel like everybody loves to bet a parlay because so a parlay is like when you combine multiple bets into a single wager. High risk, high reward. All of your picks must pan out for you to win. So that means you're picking, like, again, random examples, like you're picking Purdue to cover, you're picking Jalen
Zach Edey to get
20 points,
X number of points per game, or X number of rebounds with Purdue winning the spread would be a good example of parlay. All the guys will parlay like a whole Sunday football thing.
Exactly.
Together.
They'll
do their 4-leg or 5-leg.
And now the
parlay.
The leg just equals how many individual bets
you've made.
And like they're high risk, high rewards. Parlays, like if you look anywhere like Gambling 101, beginners should avoid a parlay. You don't know enough at all costs. You do not know enough. But that is the fatal mistake. If I feel like everybody just like jumps right into a parlay and they're like gambling on, again, it's just like high risk, high reward. You can like cash out of your parlay like in the middle of it, but you kind of lose a lot of that money.
And you'll be judged by
you'll
your
be
friends
judged by everybody in your friend
and
group.
everyone you know, and everyone that's at that Buffalo Wild Wings looking at you, cashing out, being like, really?
Yeah.
You call yourself a fan?
I was now in like, but parlays can be like super exciting. Like I was one time watching a game with somebody who had a 7-leg parlay that was like
That is silly.
silly. It was silly. And the amount of money that he won was silly. And we were like, he's sitting there and he's like, holy shit. He's like, if this guy scores a touchdown, he's like whispering my ear because he was like trying to remain calm. He's like, if so-and-so scores a touchdown, I'm going to hit my 7-leg parlay. And I was like, what? And I'm like, and he hits and he's like, I'm like standing up at the table, like freaking out. And he's like, remain calm. It was genuinely crazy. But like it's hard to happen. You're banking on a lot of things going right for you and you being really right about a lot of things, which nobody's that right about a lot of things. But they're super common. You always hear guys like talk about their parlays. And that's what I always ask the guys, like, what's your parlay? What you got on your parlay? Like, send me your parlay. And they'll like send the screenshot of the parlay. But they're just kind of dumb. In my opinion, like it's like, again, high risk, high reward, but like you're really banking on a lot of things going right for you.
They're entertaining. They're definitely entertaining, but they are the easiest way that people usually,
lose money.
Guys, will lose money quickly.
Exactly. Lose money very quickly. Yeah. So there's the parlay, and then there's some other terms, like there's live betting, which is like when you bet during a game. There's a futures bet when you like wager on a team to win a division or a conference or a certain championship. So there's like some other intricacies, but those are like the big picture terms that you may hear. And we just wanted to enlighten you so you can understand, participate in conversations when people are talking about throwing their money down the drain, But then
Hayley, thanks for taking us through that, by the way.
Yeah. And then, so that's kind of like Gambling 101, Gambling for Dummies. You know that yellow book that they've got, the Gambling for?
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. But like some general gambling tips, I Googled like, what are some gambling tips? Start simple, start straight up with those money line bets, but those are so boring, but they, start simple. Pick a sport you're familiar with, do your homework, kind of make educated decisions.
So I should not put a 3-leg parlay on bobsledding.
No, because you don't know. I don't even think, all you know is it's a sled going down a hill. You don't know anything else.
Also, Paris is a summer Olympic, right?
Yeah. So I don't know how much bobsledding is going on right now, but I'm going to guess you could bet on it because you can really bet on anything. My biggest tip for betting, though, I would say is like, don't bet on games that you're like emotionally invested in. I've been next
that is the golden rule.
But I think everybody breaks it because I'm like, I'm sitting next to like some grown men who are like losing their mind because A, their team is losing, and B, they placed money on that team. So they're like doubly sad. So don't
team is breaking your heart in more ways than one.
So kind of bottom line is like betting adds a lot of additional excitement to the game. I think it's totally changed how we watch sports. Like the NFL Red Zone is set up for fantasy football and for gamblers. Like it's like the perfect, you can check all the scores, you can see how all your players are doing. So it adds a lot of excitement, but it's not, I don't know. It's interesting. We'll go into like you maybe are like thoughts on gambling, but I'll do my hot take first. My hot take of the day.
Oh yes.
Not like a hot take, maybe just like an observation. Like I just feel like every heterosexual male I know is like addicted to gambling. Maybe like low key addicted. Some are high key addicted to gambling. Like, and I this is me generalizing. There's probably like, I'm generalizing to the heterosexual male population, but like, I just feel like a lot of the guys I'm friends with, they're just like all gambling. And I love to talk to them about it. Like it's, It is my, like, when in doubt, I'm with my guy friends, like, oh shit, there's nothing to talk about. I know what I can bring up. Hey, what'd you bet on tonight? And then they just open up and they'll tell you, they'll share their soul. But like random questions, I just think it's so interesting. Like I just think all these guys are like low key addicted to gambling. And some are smart
Yeah,
with it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think some people are smart with it, but I think some people are like
it's
spending a lot of
interesting to
money.
me. I know guys that like, which are like, I mean, like I said, like everyone has ways that they like to spend money. If that's the way you
Yeah.
like to spend money and
Good
you're
for
doing
you.
it responsibly, go for it. But it is like wild. Like I have friends that have like their like annual budget like on
Yeah.
Excel, and they have an entire sheet
Column
dedicated to their expensing of gambling
gambling.
per
And
year,
like,
which in some ways
it's
very like
smart.
that's good. Like you're putting
Setting
like a
boundaries.
stop on
Yeah.
it, like that's, which is great. But it's just interesting to me as someone who does not have a desire
To
to
do
do
that.
that like some people need to do that.
Yeah. And there's
That's what I find interesting.
yeah, and there's plenty of people who don't put that much thought into, like, that's good. I'm like, the people who are doing that and who are being like conscious about it. And like that's a question I always ask people like who are real big into sports gambling. I'm always like, I don't always ask them how much money, but I always ask them like, do you know how much money you've inputted into the system? Because it's a really easy find. You can see how much it's absurd. Like, and
scary how many people don't know.
And I'm not talking about wins or losses. I'm just talking strictly input. How much money have you thrown into the system? I'm not, and you can see like where you're sitting, like if you're in the red, you're in the green on like a certain app. And again, you can see how much money you've inputted, but I always ask like, how much money do you know how much money you've thrown in here? And like, I also like, I'll ask them how often. I just like, again, I feel like the guys that I know, I hope they're not listening to this. I love you all. Love you, baby. Love you all. Like, you guys are great people, but they're betting every day. Like every day that there's something, they're gambling, they're putting money on darts, they're putting money on table tennis on a Tuesday when there's no, nothing to gamble on. But I always ask them,
how many people have watched more than a single match of table tennis in their entire life?
No, like none. So that's why I always like ask, I'm like, okay, like how often do you do it? What's the most obscure sport you've placed a bet on? Because I think that's a key indicator to how much they're gambling. Because if they're betting on table tennis, then wow. Like if they're like, oh, I bet every Sunday on a game, I'm like, okay, maybe you got some limits. Always ask them to like, what's your biggest win? What's the most you've ever won? What's your biggest loss? Another question I always ask, how often do you withdraw? Like, do you keep the money sitting in there, or is there a point in time where you take money out? And then my kicker question is, do you invest your money in a traditional manner? That's like always I'm like
the follow-up of everything.
My follow-up is like, I'm like, okay, so outside of maybe, I'm talking about people with like 9-to-5 jobs, and again, we're all fortunate, like people like us who are fortunate to have those and have 401ks. I'm like, outside of your like company investment, like, do you invest your money in more traditional ways, or is this like your fun money? Like I kind of like to just probe and see like what else. Like, and some people are like, oh yeah, like I've got my stocks, I've got my mutual fund, all this X, Y, and Z. And some people are like, oh no, like I got my savings and I've got my whatever I've got at work and I've got my gambling. Like, it's interesting just to see like habits.
That you might want to reconsider.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you can do
like
whatever
if you have the
want
ability to have like your own investments, they like, unlike your 5-leg parlay, which will almost certainly not hit, the mutual funds have been proven to hit.
They're gonna work out for you.
They are.
I mean,
it's gonna take a while.
There's risk involved in anything outside of throwing your money into your mattress, but even that has some risk. But yeah, it's just like, I just think it's interesting. And again, like my other thing I'm trying to find, and like would love, comment below, email us, reply to our messages, whatever. I want to find a girl that gambles. And I'm talking like girl that gambles. Like you have a FanDuel account, but I really don't know anybody. I ask almost every chick I'm with, I'm like, do you gamble? Do you have and like, I feel like I know some people who are like pretty knowledgeable on sports. I consider myself like fairly in the know about sports, not like I'm like got my finger on the pulse at all times, but like
Mhm.
I would not even consider gambling, but I'm trying to find a girl that gambles, and like a normal girl, and like not a girl whose like boyfriend is, you know, monopolizing their FanDuel, or, you know, place like kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
placing
yeah,
double
yeah,
bets.
yeah, yeah.
Like if you're a girl who gambles, let us know. I'm like would love to talk to you.
Come
I
on the
just
pod.
I'm just like I again, this is just me generalizing. I just think it's so interesting how it's just like this seems to be this like heterosexual male like pastime. It's like their hobby. It's what they do for fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I
It
just think it's
is.
interesting.
It's kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
my
And it's so easy to do that like everybody they all just do it. Like I'll just be sitting around with my guy friends and they will all be talking about what they bet money on. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I do like I said, I'll bet during the holidays. Like last year, there was we had a prop bet going with Brian's friend group on $5 to enter. We were picking which song Rihanna was going to open with.
See, like
I
that's fun
lost.
though. You know?
But like, yeah, but like that's it. Like I'm like, I totally agree with you. I also I've never met a
Chick that
and I won't even
gambles.
just say female. I've never met a gambler who isn't like a heterosexual male.
Male. I agree. And again, we are
And if you're
generally
out
yeah,
there, let
find
me
us.
know.
Let me know. I
I'd
just
like
would love
want
to talk to you.
because you probably would like this podcast.
I
Maybe,
agree.
right?
You probably
That's a
know more than us.
generalization
Yeah.
too, but you might enjoy it. You should
You might
try it.
enjoy it. You probably know more than us. And I'm not saying like all these guys are like bad gamblers. Like I know some guys who, again, like you said, like have limits or are also knowledgeable and good at it. But yeah, like it's just interesting to me that it's just like this pattern. I just, yeah, again, I'm anybody who's not in the heterosexual male category who gambles, like let us know. Curious, would love to talk. Um, yeah, chicks who gamble. I need to like, I should go on Reddit. I bet I could find like a whole page that called chicks who gamble and real big into the sports betting. I just think it's fascinating. Like that's just like my caveat about it all. I'm like, wow, all
And we'll
these
just
dudes
drop our podcast link into the
link.
Reddit
I'm just
like
gonna throw it
several
in the
times a
thread
day.
until somebody latches on. But so yeah, I just think it's really interesting, and maybe it's just the guys that I hang around, they're all just big gamblers, and I love making conversation with them because I just always ask them like, what you betting on? Who you think? And it's funny because some of them will ask me. Like I got one of my guy friends like called me like a week ago and wanted my thoughts on the Purdue Minnesota football game. And I felt like oddly good about Purdue Minnesota. I was like, I think you should bet Purdue to win and cover because I think they were like a mild favorite maybe at home. And
Mhm.
it paid out. And I said, where's my cut? Where's my cut? But yeah, I just think it's fascinating. So okay, so you say I've never gambled, sports gambled. So you said you'll do it like here and there.
Yeah, so like holidays, like Thanksgiving coming up this week,
Yeah.
whole family will probably place a bet. We usually like to do one like we did this could get like slightly morbid. I don't know if we'll keep this in. But like no, like real talk. When my grandpa passed away last year,
Yeah.
we placed a bet on the Bulls and like not too long after he passed away, like the bet hit and the Bulls never do well, like and weren't doing well last year at all. And so we
Okay.
were just like, it's a sign, man.
Yeah.
Bob is watching over us. Like
He's
it
doing some work up there.
was yeah, it was actually it was like borderline like I
Kind of
was like,
crazy.
oh whoa. Yeah, I was like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, you're like
But then yeah, like holidays, so Thanksgiving, Christmas, Super Bowl,
okay.
college football championship, March Madness, we'll do like
Yeah.
Final Four championship, stuff like that. And then I think there's been 2 games that I've gone to like live that
Mhm.
were like a Big 10 championship. Not a championship, but like a Big
Game.
10 like playoff what's the tournament, the tournament. I went to the tournament, bet on like one of those games. I was with a group of people. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like social about it. And I
Yeah,
like
like
want
you're
there to be an
not religious.
event
Yeah.
and like I feel like those are also weirdly easier to bet on because there's so much information about who's the favorite to win the Super Bowl, or like
Yeah.
what the games on Thanksgiving are going to look like. You know, like
Like,
they're
and you know the players,
not
you know the
as
landscape. Yeah, they're not as
they're
obscure.
not as big
Again,
as, or
you're
like
like,
hard as like your
yeah,
regular
like
Sunday night game.
you're doing your research and or picking a sport that you're comfortable with. Again, Haley's
Mhm.
tips to betting.
Mhm.
So you're checking out
Mhm.
right there. And then I guess we can,
Yep.
and maybe this will be our last question. You versus me. Who would do better? Like you and me, an average Sunday watching football. I don't know, like maybe we place bets. Who's gonna win more money? Who would be a better gambler?
You, because you'll be more responsible. I'll flex, try to hit a parlay, it'll miss big, and I'll lose.
Yeah, that's true. You would do like some really obscure parlay that like the odds of it hitting are like so low, payouts high, but like it ain't gonna happen.
And
And
it'll
I
come
would,
close just to
yeah.
mess with me, and then it won't. And then you'll bet a single money line bet.
I was gonna say I'll do one money
It'll
line
win.
and an
And
over
it'll
under,
win.
and I'll win. And like I'll have, you'll be in the hole, and I'll have like $17, and I'll be like, oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we both could be decent bettors. Again, we know something about some sports, but yeah, that's we could call this episode a million things. Gambling for girls, but I don't just want to limit it to the ladies. Gambling for dummies.
Yeah, I
We're
would
here
say
to
like,
enlighten everybody. I hope you guys learned something.
I hope we had fun. And if you did have fun, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Don't forget to follow us on socials. We're on Instagram. We're on X, formerly Twitter. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can also find us on the good old YouTube. One day we'd
tube.
love to do this on like a full-time sort of setting. So easiest way to make that happen is for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
But until then, if anything else comes up, like I said, if you like gambling, send us an email at thesportsmedpodcast@gmail.com, or just comment below. But have a great holiday weekend, and we'll chat soon. I'm Maddie Portland.
And I'm Hayley Karpik.
And this has been your weekly dose of the Sports Medicine Podcast. Cheers. Bye.